No, sir.
Okay, there's no problem from yesterday's lecture.
No, sir.
So, should I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So, the question which we are going to discuss today, this is again an important question, and today I will tell you a new way also. Right. So, the question is that examine critically the essential commodities amendment ordinance, essential commodity amendment ordinance 2020. So this is the question, right? So examine critically the essential commodities amendment ordinance 2020. So this question, in this question, one is this, we can say, one is this, essential commodities amendment ordinance, right? So the question is focused on this part mainly, this ordinance mainly, right? And what we have to do in the context of this ordinance, that is mentioned here, that we have to examine, right, critically, right? We have to examine critically. Examine critically means we have to go, you can say, into the value judgment, that what is good, what is bad in this, right? And what can be done, right, to, you can say, improve it further. So this is there, right? So as you know, on 5th of June, the President of India, on the recommendation of the Union Cabinet, promulgated 3 ordinances. The purpose of those ordinances was, you can say, to improve the agricultural growth as well as to help increasing the farmers' income also. The basic purpose behind those 3 ordinances is the same, and all the 3 ordinances were promulgated on the same day by the Honorable President of India. Right? The one ordinance was related with the liberalization of the marketing of agricultural produce, where the farmers were given freedom to sell their agricultural produce within a state or out of their state also, anywhere within India, right? And APMC regime would be hit with that, it is true. And apart from that, in that ordinance, there was the provision that anyone who is having the PAN card can trade into the agricultural commodities. So that was the one ordinance. So the reason of the government behind that ordinance was that will promote competition in the agricultural marketing and help the farmers to fetch, you can say, good price of their agricultural produce. And this way that ordinance can, you can say, help a lot in improving the lot of the poor farmers in our country. So the second ordinance, which we discussed, I think, yesterday, that ordinance was related with the facilitation of the contract farming in agricultural sector in India. Yesterday, we discussed it in very much detail, right? So contract farming, according to the government, would also help in the agricultural growth, and the contract farming would also, according to the you can say, government, you can say, that would relieve the farmers from the risk of the, we can say, from the risk of marketing, right? And that would help the farmers to fetch good prices. And that would lead to the, you can say, that would lead to lower the requirement of the working capital for the farmers also. So that was the second important ordinance, right? And third ordinance is this Essential Commodities Ordinance, right? So in the Essential Commodities Ordinance, in general, I'm telling you now, in the Essential Commodities of this, you can say, ordinance also, it has been provided to, you can say, relax the, you can say, stock limits imposed by the government of India, right? So as far as the agricultural produce is concerned, right? So stock limits, you can say, would be raised, and those would be held. Those can be, you can say, put only in case, only in, you can say, case of exceptional circumstances if they prevail in the market, and there are also further conditions, right? So that means to remove the, you can say, ban on the stocking of the agricultural commodities. So this is the next, you can say, ordinance, third ordinance. And these three ordinances are said to be the game changers in the agricultural sector particularly. And these three agreements, ordinances are said that if the intention of the government, you can say, works well, right, with which intention the government has brought these ordinances, and if these ordinances could really, you can say, become successful in serving their purposes, then these three ordinances may prove the, you can say, milestone in the history of agriculture of post-independence of India, right? So two ordinances we have already discussed, and today we are going to discuss the, you can say, third ordinance, right? So this is the question there. So in this question, we will need to mention the 2-3 things, right? Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, beta. Okay. So, beta, this is the Essential Commodities Ordinance. Let me write it, ECO, right? Essential Commodities Ordinance. Okay, you will not mention like ECO in like this in your examination. Please keep it in mind. So, beta, in this question, first of all, we will tell the, you can say, one model I am telling you. We will write about the introduction of the ordinance, introduction, right? And need, you can say, right? Introduction and basic purpose, you can say, right? Behind this. Introduction and basic purpose behind promulgation of this ordinance, right? And in the second part, as it, as per the convention of the, you can say, UPSC marking, I would say it marking, right? Introduction and basic purpose. And second thing, that is the, you can say, provisions, because until and unless somebody knows about the ordinance, provisions of the ordinance, the person would not be able to examine it critically. So that is why to know the provisions is important, right? Provisions. So, and the third we will discuss here that its shortcomings, right? Its shortcomings or problems which may arise, right? With this, right? Which may arise, and at the end, we would do the, you can say, critical, the concluding part, right? At the end, there will be the concluding part, which is known as the conclusion. There will be the conclusion at the end, right? So this is the whole thing there, which we would cover in our, you can say, this entire, you can say, answer, right? So we will cover this in this entire answer. So this is right. So beta, in this, you can say, concluding part, we will do one thing, right? One is whether it serve the purpose. Is it going to serve the purpose? Right? One thing is whether it going to serve the purpose, right? Whether it is going to serve the purpose. Right? Whether it is going to serve the purpose. And in the second part, we will, you can say, give some suggestions. Give some suggestions and a final note. Right? We will give the final note also. This is going to happen. So this is the one point in this, right? Nishankar?
Yes, sir.
Actually, yeah, I am waiting for the day that when that day will come, that by when I would enter the class and my students will be already waiting for me. I don't know when that day will come in my life. No? So that proves that there is no, you can say, zeal or right hunger of my lecture among my students.
No, sir. It's something. मतलब सर ये habit बन चुका है सर students का.
Okay. So I'm waiting for that day. I don't know when that day will happen in my life.
Sir, as soon as you message that I will be late, that you will be late and will join the class at 4:45, sir, all of them goes. ठीक है हम अब 4:55 पे join करेंगे.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know when that day.
No, sir, I am waiting for 4:30 till.
You are waiting, but when all will be waiting. I don't know when that day will come in my life. So if that keeps on going continuously, then I would become a school teacher instead. At least the students would be waiting for me before the class starts, right? So the next way The next, you can say, strategy of tackling this is that we will write introduction and basic purpose. Introduction and basic purpose, right? And in next part, right, we would go far. You can say 3 things in parallel, right? In the table form we can do. One is the provision, right? One is the provision. And the second thing is criticism or problem. And the third thing is suggestion, if there is any. These 3 things may go parallel, right? And third part is, right, those you can say criticisms, those points of criticism which are not specific to any provision, So in this part we can write those points, right, which are not specific to any provision, right? And the third part again the same, concluding. So we can work with 2 strategies, right? So this would be a new strategy again for the examiner, that somebody is doing it this way, because the need of the question is to write an answer to examine critically this ordinance. So for the critical examination, we can go point-wise also, that one point is this, and this is the shortcoming in this point, and this can be done. Second is this can be done. Third is this can be done, right? So that will be more categorical, and that will be more organized, I think, and examiner would like that more, according to my opinion, right? So these are the options before you to check out a strategy for writing the answer, right? So is it clear? Can I, you can say, can I erase it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So beta, I am in the habit of finding new ways always, right? So the way you can say use today, I will come fed up from that after a few days, and then I will look for some other way. So this is
And this is actually what is actually required in the UPSC examination, because they are bored out of the traditional ways.
So that is why I'm telling you, we can tackle this in this way also, right? So beta, first of all, let us do the introduction part, the introduction and basic purpose of this ordinance, as I promised with you in that part, right? Introduction. So here it is, you can say, so in introduction we would write data. We would start with this data. You can say essential commodities amendment ordinance, right? Essential commodities. amendment ordinance. First of all, beta, are all of you clear about the essential commodities? Amendment ordinance, right? Has been brought to amend the Essential Commodities Act, Essential Commodities Act 1955, right? To amend the Essential Commodities Act 1955. So this is there, brought to amend this, right? Essential Commodities Act 1955. Actually, let me tell you first this about the essential commodities also, because some among you may not be clear about that, may be confused about that. Basically, beta, essential commodities, there is no, you can say, a PET or watertight definition of the essential commodities, you can say, right? Essential commodities are those commodities, right, which are considered by the government, right, essential for living, right, essential for living and maintenance of right, life of a reasonable, right, a reasonable standard, right, a reasonable standard. So those are the essential commodities, right? So we can say the you can say the set of essential commodities, or definition of essential commodities, you can say, right, may vary from time to time, right, may vary from time to time, and we can say place to place, right, country to country and place to place, right? So usually the governments try to keep a tab on the price and, right, on the price and stock of, on the price and we can say availability, and the price and stocking and the price of stocking of essential commodities, right, to you can say protect the interests of consumers and producers, consumers and producers, right, consumers and producers. So this is basically, we can say, about the essential commodities, right? So every government has to make it sure that at least the essential commodities which are considered essential by the government for the, you can say, survival, living, maintenance and growth of the residents of the country, right? At least their availability should be regular, should be continuous, right? And their price should remain within the limits. So that is why the government keeps on notifying the essential commodities from time to time, and the government keeps on prescribing the stocking limits, right, of those commodities, or the bans on, you can say, holding of such commodities, or the bans on, you can say, stocking of such commodities beyond a certain limit from time to time, right? So this is about the essential commodities. Is it clear now to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So this is about the essential commodities, right? Now let us move further on this point. Let us move further on this point. So there it is that you can say the Essential Commodities Act. The Essential Commodities Act, which Act 1955 you can say, which you can say empowers the central government, to control production, right? Production, supply, distribution, trade and commerce, right? In certain commodities, trade and commerce in certain commodities, right? Certain commodities has amended to increase, right? To increase, has been amended, right? Two. Number one, for what purpose it has been amended? Number one, we can say to increase competition in agriculture sector, right? To increase competition in agriculture sector. This is the one point, right? To increase competition in agriculture sector. And the second point is there, competition in agriculture sector. And the second point is enhance farmers' income. So this is the actual purpose behind this, right? That with the help of this ordinance, this can be done, right? With the help of this ordinance, this can be done, right? So, right? So this is next. You can write that this ordinance is a part of the series of reforms introduced by the present government, to, you can say, give thrust to the agricultural economy, right? Give thrust to the agricultural economy, right? Already, right? Two more sister ordinances of this, right? Sister ordinances of this one have been issued or promulgated, right? Have been promulgated along with this, right? So you can write one is to liberalize the agricultural marketing. And the other is to facilitate contract farming in agriculture, right? To contract farming. So we have given the introduction about the other two articles also, and we have given the purpose of this Essential Commodities Ordinance 2020 also. Is it clear up to this point? So then I will move
Yes,
further.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, beta, okay. So this is it. Right? So now we will move further the provisions part. Right? So let me try the new way today, right? Which I told you that we can, you can say, tackle it this way also, right? So let me try that new way today. So in this we will do this also. This is right. So there it is. One is this, and the second part you can say is this in this. Yes. So second part is this. Where we will keep on writing this. Okay. So beta in this part, there one is you can say provisions. Provisions of Essential Commodities Ordinance 2020, right? आपने वहाँ ऐसे abbreviate नहीं करना. Provision of this article, right? Second is we can say criticism or shortcoming, right? Criticism, shortcoming, or problem related to this, right? You can write that. And the third part is we can say that this is the suggestion part, right? This is the suggestion part, right? So as far as the provisions are concerned, the first provision is that the first provision is that you can say the central government by notification in, we can say, in official gazette, by notification in official gazette, right? In official gazette may regulate the supply of certain foodstuffs, right? In we can say extraordinary circumstances. In extraordinary circumstances. What are those extraordinary circumstances? Number one is, we can say, extraordinary circumstances include, number one, that is you can say war. Number one is war, right? Number two, we can say famine. Number two, famine. If there is famine, right? Shortage of food, we can say, right? So in that case, the prices will, you can say, skyrocket, right? And even the traders can, you can say, create artificial scarcity also in the market just to exploit the, you can say, consumers, right? So that is why in that case, the government can impose the restrictions on holding the stock, right? Famine. Are you understanding now?
Yes, sir.
War, famine. And the third point is that war, famine. And the third point here is that is the extraordinary price rise. Extraordinary price rise means if there is inflation, right? Extraordinary inflation. That is also the point when the government can do this. Extraordinary price rise right? And the fourth point, which is here, right? That is, we can say the natural calamity of grave nature. Natural calamity of grave nature, that can be, right? So here can be natural calamity of grave nature. Natural calamity of grave nature, right? So this is the fourth point which can be given. Natural calamity of grave. So these are the four circumstances, four situations when the government by notification may impose restrictions, right, or regulate the supply of certain foodstuffs, right? The certain foodstuffs include, now I will write here, the certain foodstuffs include, right, the foodstuffs, right, mentioned in the ordinance, include, right? उसमें कौन से foodstuffs हो सकते हैं, mentioned in the ordinance include, right? कौन से उसके अंदर foodstuffs हो सकते हैं? That is the one is, we can say, the cereals, means anas, right? Cereals. Second is the pulses. Second can be the pulses, right? Pulses, right, means daling, right? And the third one is, we can say, the third one is the potato. Third one is potato. And fourth one is, we can say, onions. Onions. Right? Onions. Onions. And the fifth one is, we can say, edible oil seeds and oil. Right? Edible oil seeds and oil. So these are the foodstuffs. On the, you can say, supply of which the government can impose restrictions or can regulate the supply of these foodstuffs in the above four situations, right? And oils. So this is the provision of this, you can say, particular, you can say, of this ordinance, right? The government by notification in official gazette may regulate the supply of foodstuffs, right? In these situations, in these cases, right? So beta, the important thing here is that, right? The important thing here is that, we can see, right, which is important to mention here, right? That is that you can say, it is important to mention here that, you can see, this provision of the ordinance may lead to overstocking, yes, may lead to one, I would say, that is the overstocking, right? May lead to overstocking. Overstocking, right? In case of overstocking of this, right, the price of the produce would fall, right? Which may become injurious to farmers' interests, right? Injurious to farmers' interests, right? Right. So everybody would start, you can say, stocking onions, let's suppose, that the price of onion would rise by the month of October or so, right? So a number of traders would start, you can say, stocking onions, right, in the market. So this is one thing, overstocking. And second thing is that it may lead to create artificial scarcity. It may lead to create artificial scarcity of goods, right? Artificial scarcity. So artificial scarcity, like sometimes the farmer do hoarding, right? Like in the case of the, you can say, onions, right? At the time of the, at the production time, you can say, they purchase the, you can say, huge amounts of the onion from the Maharashtra market, right? And they start stocking the onions, right? And when the prices of onions rise in the month of October or so, right? First they create the artificial scarcity, and then they, you can say, try to earn the abnormal profits by selling the onions at that time, right? So artificial scarcity may lead to price rise in commodities, right? Price rise of commodities, you can say, price rise of consumption articles, right? Consumption articles, right? So which may harm the interests of the, consumers in the country, which may harm the interests of the consumers in the country, right? Interests of consumers in country. And second point, which is important here, which needs to be mentioned, is that, you can say, overstocking, and you can say artificial scarcity also there, right? So these are the two important shortcomings, right? And the next point, you can say, which can be said here, that it may lead to eating away the right buffer stock maintained by the government, right? Buffer stock maintained by the government, which already happened in 2003-4 when the Vajpayee government right, you can say, raised bars on, you can say, raised bars on stocking of various commodities, including wheat, right? And that led to the fall in government's buffer stock of wheat to almost 50%, and ultimately the government had to import wheat. Right? So it means when there will be no check on, you can say, supply or no check of maintaining the stock of a commodity beta, in that case, what will happen? Whatever the commodity will be, sorry, whatever the, you can say, produce will be available in the market, right? What will happen? The traders will purchase that produce and they will keep that in stock, right? They will maintain the stock, keep that in stock, right? And when they will keep in stock, then beta, what happens? Government, what happens? The price rise in the market, right? When the entire stock, right? When the stock in the market which is available, right? That is, you can say, hold by the traders. Then what happens? Then happens the price rise, right? And beta, if the price rise, then the government has to release the right stock from its godowns, right, to increase the supply in the market to bring the prices down, right, to bring the prices down, right. And beta, in that case, what happens, beta? The whatever the produce comes into the market, right, the you can say traders, you can say, sweep away that again, right. Traders sweep away that again, right, sweep away that again, and the government releases more stock, traders again sweep away that, and in this way the government's stock, right, you can say, decreases, right. And in that year, ultimately the government, in that case, ultimately the government had to import the wheat, right, to, you can say, to rose it to the to rose that to the level of the buffer stock, right, which is required to be maintained. So this is the criticism point. Is it clear point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt to anybody, you can tell me, right? So now beta, yes, tell me, ask me. Hello? Somebody was trying to speak, I think. May it be Palak?
No.
Okay. So then I'm allowed to go ahead, na? Suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What can be the suggestion, right? What can be the suggestion? Seeing the past experiences, right? That whenever the government tried to liberalize, right? Try to liberalize the regulation of supply, right? Regulation of supply of agricultural produce, right? It you can see led to some, okay? It led to some bitter, you can say. It led to some bitter, you can say, situation, right? It led to some bitter situation, right? So the government, needs to take care of, right? Take care of this problem, right? Take care of this problem, so that the, we can say, right, scrupulous, dishonest, it means, right? So that the unscrupulous traders, right, may not play to harm the economy, right, for their own interest, right, for their own interest, right. And in parallel, the government should develop a system. So should develop a system, right, to keep tab on the to keep tab on the total stock of an agricultural commodity, right? You can say held by the private stockists or private traders, right? Private traders or stockists, right? Private traders or stockists. So far, there is no such mechanism, yeah, right, existing in the economy, existing in the system, we can say, existing in the system, right? So this may help government to certain extent, right, to know that what is the stock at present available in our country, so that the government may take the import or export decisions accordingly, right? So keeping the whole situation in mind. Is it clear? Keeping everything in mind.
Hanji, sir.
Okay. So the next thing is now.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please explain the second point wala criticism ka?
Criticism ka second point, right? It may lead to eating away the buffer stock. This point.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, beta. First of all this is clear to everybody except this. I'm just asking. Except this.
Yes,
is it clear?
sir.
Okay. So beta, the thing is that. Yes, Nishant, you have raised your hand. Tell me.
So the points are clear to me, but sir, I'm not getting how these are the criticism of this particular provision.
Okay. See, beta, the government, right, may regulate the supply of certain foodstuffs only in case of the extraordinary circumstances. Otherwise, the government would not, right, you can say, jump into the system to control the, you can say, supply, to regulate the, you can say, supply of those particular foodstuffs, right? So, beta, it means if there will be no, you can say, stock limit, right? If there will be no bar on maintaining the stock of, you can say, these commodities like cereals, pulses, potatoes, onions, etc., right? If there will be no bar, beta, that means what does that mean? That a trader can keep a right stock of a commodity to any extent, right? A trader can keep stock of a commodity to any extent.
In the normal times.
Yes, beta, in the normal.
Sir, what was the purpose then to introduce such a provision?
I'm telling you, beta. I'm telling you, right? So, beta, is it okay now? Is it clear?
Yeah, sir, I got it.
Yes, is it? So, beta, this is the point. So, beta, then, beta, what will happen if there will be no such limit, right? You can say traders may purchase the commodity from the open market when it will be available, right? When the harvesting time will come, they will, you can say, hold that commodity, keep that in stock, right? They will try to create the artificial scarcity, right? And by creating the, you can say, artificial scarcity, when the price will, you can say, rise in the market, then you can say they would start supplying the goods from their stocks. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, to make, you can say, abnormal profits, right? By creating that you can say situation knowingly, right? And traders already do that in case of the, you can say, sugar also, right? In case of some other commodities also, traders already do that.
सर ये तो वही वाली बात हो गई, मतलब जो गवर्नमेंट का मोटिव था बिल्कुल उल्टा हो गया उससे.
Yes, because that may happen, right? So yes, government must have to take the precautions for that, na? So beta,
yes, sir. The motive of the government, motive of the government was to liberalize so that the prices do not increase abruptly.
No, beta. The purpose of the government is to liberalize so that there may be competition among the, you can say, purchasers, right? And they would come forward, you can say, to purchase the agricultural produce from the market, right, up to any extent they like, if there is no problem, right, beta, up to the, we can say, extent of their capacity, right, or up to the extent of the export demand in the market, right, beta, and beta, that way, the farmers would be able to get the, you can say, better price of their produce, right, beta, that will lead to increase in demand, right, beta, if there is, you can say, if there is stock limit which has been imposed by the government, right, then beta traders, you can say, would purchase up to, you can say, this limit only, right, and the demand in the market would be limited in that case, right, and beta, if that limit, you can say, has been lifted, so in that case, you can say, trader can purchase, you can say, up to this extent also from the market, right, and beta, that will lead to increase in the demand in the market, right, and if the demand in the market increases, then you can see, obviously, the farmer
Will gain.
would gain, right?
Yes, sir, I got it. So thank you.
Yes. So beta, this is the point in this case, right? But beta, and the second point, this may lead to, you can say, beta overstocking also, right? So when the, you can say, overstocking will happen, right? Let's suppose this year, right? The traders, you can say, did the overstocking, right? Without, you can say, doing the proper economic calculations due to certain reasons, right? So beta, if you can say the overstocking happens, then by the next year, the, you can say, stock will already be there with the traders, right? If due to certain reasons, let's suppose the export demand is not there, or like those conditions, right? So beta, in that case, beta, what will happen when the warehouses of the traders would already be lying, you can say, full, right? In that case, traders would not go for purchasing the agricultural produce in the market, and that will lead to fall in the, you can say, market prices of the agricultural produce in that case, right? Like it happens in the economy. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir, I got it.
Okay. Now beta, let me concentrate on this point, which has been raised by the by Palak, you can see. It may eat away. Beta, the thing is, beta, there are certain commodities of which government maintains a stock, right? There are certain commodities like wheat, rice, right, onion, etc., of which the government maintains stock, right? So the purpose of maintaining that, you can say, stock of the government is that, right, whenever there is the scarcity in the market, or whenever the prices of the commodities rise in the market, in those circumstances, the government may release the commodity from its stock, right? May release the commodity from its stock, and the government may, you can say, control the price in that way, right? Or the government may ensure that, you can say, the supply of the commodity to the consumers, right? Is it true? Right? So beta, when the traders will start creating the artificial scarcity, in that case, the government would have to, you can say, supply the produce from its stocks, right? And beta, if the government keeps on going, the, you can say, supplying the commodity from its stocks, right? And that way, the stocks of the government, right, would, you can say, keep on falling, right? And beta, if the stocks of the government would keep on falling, then you can say the government would have to purchase the, you can say, those commodities from the outside markets also to maintain the requisite stock. It is the policy of the government to maintain the requisite stock of certain commodities, right? The prices of which may rise, and which commodities are considered, you can say, essentials also. That is the duty of the government to keep the, to, you can say, ensure the, right, regular supply of those commodities as per the, you can say, demand in the market, so that there would be, number one, no artificial scarcity, no, you can say, scarcity, and number two, there should be no extraordinary price rise, right? So in that case, the government helps. Is it clear, Palak?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So beta, this is that. So this is the first provision, beta, with adequate criticism and with suggestion as well. I hope it is clear to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, beta. So I am going to erase it. If anybody has any doubt, you can ask. So the second point of concern here, the second provision, which is there in this, you can say, to have ordinance, right? So that second provision is that, beta, you can say any action on stock limit, right? So one is the government has mentioned that action on stock limit the government would take in case of the foodstuffs, right? Only if there are the extraordinary circumstances. It is mentioned there now. It is mentioned, right? And next, government may take action on stock limits, but that will be on the basis of the conditions, right? So any action on stock limits by the government, any action on stock limits by the government, right? By the government, right? Will be based on price rise, right? Will be based on price rise, right? So if there is a rise in prices, right? And beta, the extent of price rise, the extent of price rise mentioned in the ordinance is, right? In the ordinance is, number one, in case of horticulture produce, in case of horticulture produce, right? In case of horticulture produce means that produce which is perishable nature, right? We can say perishable, produce of perishable nature, right? And second is there that we can say in case of non-perishable produce, right? In case of non-perishable produce, right? Non-perishable agricultural produce, right? Non-perishable produce. So beta, in this case, in case of the non-perishable produce, we can say, right? And in case of the perishable produce, right? So in case of the perishable produce, the government can impose the stock limits only if the price rise is, we can say, right, 100%. Only if the price rise is 100%. And in the case of non-perishable commodities, agricultural commodities, the government can, you can say, impose the stock limit if there is a 50% rise in the price, right? If there is 50% rise in the price. So otherwise the government cannot jump in to, you can say, take the, we can say, action in this case, right? Right? So beta, now the question is that what is the basis of price, right? What price should be considered for this purpose, right? Basis of price. What is the basis of price? The basis of price, right? Yes, Kamal? Hello?
Hello?
Beta, is there a problem of my voice to everybody?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Kamal, beta, please try to check it from your end. Eh? Hello? I think you have rejoined. Na? After rejoining, there may be some problem. Please check it.
Actually, sir, network करके आप पे disconnect हो रहा है.
That is the reason that you can say the voice may not be proper.
Try to turn off your video. Maybe the bandwidth will be more than.
Yes. Turn off your video. Right. Now, beta, there is the basis of price. So, as far as the basis of price is concerned, according to the this ordinance, right? You can say we can say price prevailing, right? Price prevailing. You can say, right? Prevailing immediately. Price prevailing immediately 12 months, right? Immediately 12 months, right? Before, right? Price prevailing in immediately 12 months before, right? So when we are taking the decision about the stock limit, right? From that day, the price prevailing in the market in immediately 12 months before, right? So that will be considered, right? Next, immediately preceding 12 months can also be said, right? Or here we'll use or, right? Or. So as far as this point is concerned, or average retail price of, or average, beta, here the price will be considered the retail price, right? Average retail price of, we can say, last 5 years. Last 5 years, right? Last 5 years. And the next point is whichever is less, right? Average retail price of last 5 years. And I would write here that whichever is less, right? Whichever is lower or less. So this is the basis of the price. Is it clear? Is this provision clear? So the government can, you can say, take the decision about the stock limit, right? In case of the price rise, the government's decision about the stock limit will be based on the price rise, and the price rise will be determined this way, right? In case of the perishable agricultural produce, right? The government can decide about the stock limit. Only the price has risen by 100%. And in case of the non-perishable agricultural produce, the government can, you can say, decide about the stock limits only if the price rise is by 50%, right? So the reference price would be either the price prevailing, right? Immediately, price prevailing in immediately 12 months, right? In immediately preceding 12 months, we can say, or the average retail price of last 5 years, whichever is less. So that will be the reference price, right? So जिसका हमने 100% increase या 50% increase देखना है, वो हमने इसका देखना है. Is it clear, beta? So now, beta, the criticism, right? The criticism. So this provision requires the government. This provision requires the government to go for stock limits. To go for stock limits if the right price rise is 100% in case of perishable. In case of perishable agricultural produce, right? Agricultural produce. You can even skip this line also there. Agricultural produce, or 50% in case of non-agricultural produce, right? Or and 50% in case of non-agricultural produce, right? In case of non-agricultural produce. So this is there, right? So we can see this situation happens quite commonly in India, right? Quite commonly in India, during number one, off season, right? Off season, like in case of onions and potatoes, right? In case of onions and potatoes, right? Sometimes, right? Sometimes the price rise has been noticed. Sometimes the price rise has been noticed even beyond 100%, right? Much higher than 100%. Number one. Number two, right? Number two. So this is very common in our country, right? So this is very common in our country. We can say in our country when there is a we can say you can say disruption of a monsoon. When there is disruption of monsoon, right? Or you can say drought, right? Drought due to that. Disruption of monsoon, flooding, right? Flooding, right? Etc. So this is very common, right? That it happens in our, you can say, system. Quite, you can say, common, right? It happens in our system quite commonly, because that means you can say it would defeat the right purpose of this, you can say, right? It would defeat the purpose of, we can say, this ordinance, right? So if this is the case, then it would defeat the purpose of this ordinance, and the government would have to, this would defeat the purpose of, defeat the purpose of this ordinance, right? And the stock limits and the imposition of stock limits would become, imposition of stock limits would become too common, right? Imposition of stock limits would become too common in that case, right? So imposition of stock limits would become too common. Is it true? Imposition of stock
Yes,
limits
sir.
would become too common, right? So
सर
beta,
मींस emergency cases च होना चाहिए तो ये तो common ही होगा,
yes,
फिर इसका कोई purpose भी नहीं है.
yes, right beta. So flooding हो गया, locust attack हो गया, right? Excessive rainfall हो गया. So in all these situations, right? So beta, this is, you can say, very common, which happens in our country. So beta, this is the one point, right? And beta, similarly, in this criticism, we would write next, right? That we would write next, that you can say that the reference price would be, right? The reference price would be the agriculture produce market committee's price, right? That would be the reference price, right? Would be the agriculture produce market committee's price. So that would be the reference price there, right? Reference price there. So beta, you can say, right? And another ordinance, which is sister ordinance of this, right? Allows farmers, right? You should write the name of the ordinance here. All right, allows farmers to sell their produce, all right, out of APMCs also. Right? We have done this now, out of APMCs also, right? So beta, this would, right, this would lead to, you can say, this would lead to interfere in this purpose of the ordinance, right? Lead to interference in this purpose of the ordinance, right? This purpose of the ordinance, and the purpose may be defeated, right? The purpose may be defeated, right? So here now we come on the, we can say, suggestion here. Come on the suggestion, right? So the government should make it sure that we can say other ordinance should make it sure that the other ordinance, right, which is, we can say, the farmers produce, other ordinance, we can say, farmers, right, produce, which is the farmers produce, we can say, right, farmers produce, trade and commerce, promotion and facilitation, right, ordinance 2020, right, ordinance 2020 does not destroy, right, the system of data collection, of price from APMCs, right, agriculture produce market committees. So the government must have to, you can say, make it sure, right? The government must have to make it sure, right? So this is there, right? So this is also there, right? So it means if this will keep on happening, so then the problem will be there. Is it okay? This is the second point.
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Okay. It's clear to you. Good. So now the next point, which is the third point in this line, we can say, which is the third point. As far as the third point is concerned, right, the ordinance has provided some exceptions. The ordinance has provided for some exceptions according to which, right, we can say, according to which the order for stock regulations by the government, stock regulations, right, would not apply to a processor, means a processor of the agricultural produce, right, processor, right, or value chain, right, processor or value chain participant, we can say, right, of any agricultural produce, you can say, if the stock limit, right, does not exceed, right, if the stock limit does not exceed, right, does not exceed the overall, we can say ceiling of installed capacity. Overall ceiling of installed capacity, right? Overall ceiling of installed capacity or processing, right? Install or processing or demand for export in case of export. So I'm just explaining this point first to you, then we will go ahead, right? So as far as this point is concerned, Peter, they say that one thing is that this ordinance will not be applicable on two parties, right? On two parties. Number one is a exporter, and number two is the processor of agricultural produce, right? There are two persons on whom this ordinance will not apply. One is the processor of agricultural produce, and second is the exporter of agricultural produce, right? So in case of processor, beta, right? If the we can say stock lies below the processing capacity, right? If the stock lies below the, we can say, processing capacity, right? Lies below the processing capacity of that processor. That suppose this is the processing capacity, right? And the stock is somewhere at this point here, right? Somewhere at this point here. Then it means that up to this point, the, you can say, processor can raise its stock and there will be no restriction by the government in that case, right? So जब तक इसकी जो installed capacity है या जो इसकी जो processing capacity है, ठीक है, वो नहीं पूरी हो जाती, तब तक ये stock raise कर सकता है according to the government, right? And similar case is there in case of the exporter also, right? In beta exporter's case, let's suppose the demand for export, we can say, is equivalent to this, is at this point, right? Demand for, right? And beta, the exporter has yet the, you can say, stock equivalent to this at this point, right? It means beta, exporter may raise the stock, right, up to this point, and the government would not interfere. The government would not, you can say, impose any stock limit up to this point, right? So when it crosses only, then that can be called. So this is the. Is this point clear, beta?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, means these two are exceptions, like processor can and
Yes.
exporter can stock more than traders.
Stock, yes, beta, stock up to their capacity. Capacity means the processor can stock up to its, you can say, processing capacity, whichever is there, right? And we can say exporter can keep stock, right, up to the, you can say, export demand, right? So beta, these are the two, we can say, exceptions there, right? Is it clear or not?
That means there is limit on them or no limit. Limit does not exceed. Okay, certain limits are there.
Yes, beta, limit is there, na? Up to this point he can, right, keep there. Is it clear up to this point? Tell me, please. Everybody should tell me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If any doubt to anybody, I can explain. Okay, beta, before going to the criticism, first of all, let me explain to you, we have used the term here, value chain participant, right? So we have used the term here, value chain participant, right? So first of all, I think some students may not be clear about the value chain. So let me explain this value chain, right? This point is not part of the criticism. Please, this is only, I'm explaining to make you understand the concept of the value chain, right? So here, in the context of this only, I will talk. Here, value chain involves, we can say, right, forward linkage from, right, from producer to consumer, right? forward linkage from producer to consumer, right? Where value addition takes place, right, at various points, right, at various points like, right, at various points like we can say processing. हम प्रोसेसिंग करते हैं, वहां भी वैल्यू एडिशन होती है. देन पैकेजिंग, वहां भी वैल्यू एडिशन होती है. देन स्टोरेज, वहां भी वैल्यू एडिशन होती है, बिकॉज वी एड टाइम वैल्यू टू इट, राइट, स्टोरेज. देन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, यहाँ भी वैल्यू एडिशन होती है, बिकॉज वी एड प्लेस वैल्यू टू इट, राइट, बिकॉज प्रोडक्शन कहीं और कंजम्पशन कहीं और है, तो ट्रांसपोर्ट उसको लिंक करती है. सो दैट इज कंसिडर्ड एज अ वैल्यू एडिशन, right? So transportation, it adds the place value to the, you can say, commodity, right? And then better we can say distribution, right? So this is also value addition. So these are the various, you can say, value addition points where the value addition takes place from the end of the producer to the consumer, right? So is it clear, beta? So
Yes,
this is what we mean by the, so beta, anybody who is involved in this value addition chain, whether it is processor, whether it is packager, whether it is, you can see, providing the storage services, right, whether it is providing the transportation services or it is providing the distribution services, it means we can say they can keep the stock, right, up to their capacity, right, up to their capacity, right, provided the limit should not exceed their capacity, right. And in case of exporter, he can keep the stock, maintain the stock up to the demand for export. Okay, so now beta,
excuse me, sir.
yes,
Sir, their
please.
limits are decided by.
Beta, limits are decided by the act, by the law, by the government agencies.
Okay, sir.
Check that, right? So
Okay, sir.
so that is the, right. So beta, now the point is, beta, now the point is, number one, right, there is no data of private stock, right, private stock line in private sectors, stock lying in private sector, stock lying in private sector. So this is the first problem, right, stock lying in private sector, right. Government, right, only keeps the data of stock of commodities, right, in public sector, and so far no system has been developed, right, to facilitate right, automatic updation of stock of a particular agricultural commodity, lying in private sector, right, So one point is this, right, lying in private sector. So one point is this, data is not there, right. So that means we can say this would become difficult to know the stock, right, to know the stock existing with some processor, right, or a value chain participant with some processor or value chain participant at a point of time, right, right. The only method would be the physical verification of the stock, right? Physical verification of the stock. So far we can say of the stock by the inspectors, right? By the inspectors. And if this happens, so right, then it would lead to the reversal of liberalization reforms, right? And the system would again fall. The system would again fall in, we can say, Inspector Raj, right? Which was the most criticized, you can say, point in our system before the LPG reforms were introduced. So one point is this. Is it clear up to this point, beta?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
stop.
sir.
So beta stop kahin malum hoga hame. Right. So beta and beta for this purpose, right? For this purpose, we can say that. Right? What can be the suggestion related with this, right? So we can say that number one, right? So warehousing, right? Registration should be made mandatory by the government. Should be made mandatory by the government, right? By the government. राइट सो बेटा हमारे कंट्री के अंदर वेयर हाउसिंग की रजिस्ट्रेशन कहाँ हो सकती है मालूम है बेटा आपको?
State government.
WDRA, Warehousing Development and Regulatory Authority, New Delhi. Right? Warehousing Development and Regulatory Authority, New Delhi. Regulatory Authority, New Delhi. Okay. So beta, one thing is this, that registration of warehouses can be made mandatory in this case. Is it clear? Right? And the beta second thing is right, and we can say, right, and we can say the online stock updation system, the online stock updation system, right? Link it with the warehouses. Can be developed, right? It is easy for India. It is easy for India as right, as there is already a provision for right? There is already a provision for issue of you can say for issue of electronic negotiable warehousing, right? Warehousing receipt, right? Warehousing receipt, which can be used, right? Which can be used for trading, and you can say raising loans from banks, right? Raising loans from banks. I'm just explaining this, raising loans from banks. Okay, so this is important thing, right? So beta, it means that it is easy for India because see one thing, the problem is that we don't know that what is the stock line there with the private traders, right? But yes, one thing is that whatever the you can say stock the private trader or participant of value chain will you can say maintain, he will keep that stock in some warehouse, right? He will keep that stock in warehouse, right? And beta, we have already developed a system in our country where the warehouses, you can say, issue electronic negotiable warehousing receipt. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक नेगोशिएबल वेयर हाउसिंग रिसिप्ट का मतलब ये है कि ये एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रिसिप्ट होती है। जैसे मान लीजिए मेरे वेयर हाउस के अंदर राइट मान लीजिए जशन का निशांत का स्टॉक पड़ा है कमोडिटीज का, तो मैं इनको एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रिसिप्ट दे दूंगा अपनी तरफ से कि इनका इतना स्टॉक मेरे वेयर हाउस के अंदर पड़ा है, राइट?
यस सर।
यस, सो बेटा उस बेसिस के ऊपर निशांक और जसन फर्दर ट्रेड भी कर सकते हैं मार्केट के अंदर, बाइंग उस यू कैन से प्रोड्यूस की सेलिंग भी कर सकते हैं, राइट? उसका ये फ्यूचर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट भी कर सकते हैं और वही रिसिप्ट वो बैंक के पास मतलब प्लेज करके उसी रिसिप्ट के ऊपर वो लोन भी दे सकते हैं। सो दैट इज व्हाई दैट रिसिप्ट इज नोन एज द नेगोशिएबल रिसिप्ट, राइट? सो बेटा if the you can say electronic negotiable warehousing receipt is already there, you can say right in practice, so then it is quite easier that the government only has to link that system with the you can say some you can say centralized system which is controlled by the government, right? So that would be easier for the government, right? So beta, this is the problem and the solution to this problem is this. Is it okay?
Sir, at present this is not there, like these receipts are not given means.
Beta, receipts are given, but there is no record with the government. There is no centralized record with the government, or you can say automatic updation in the system of the government is not there. So beta,
Okay,
that right, so beta networking of that is required, so that whenever the you can say change happens, right, so that should be automatically updated, you can say in some record with the government, right, at some
Yes,
you can
sir.
say central place, right? So that it should be in the notice of the government that you can say the total stock of this commodity is this much as on today. Is it clear now?
Yes sir. Sir, my one question is more there.
Yes.
Like means it means registration is at present is not mandatory
Yes,
of
beta.
warehouses.
Beta, some warehouses are running, you can say, right? जिसको हम 2 नंबर क्या देते हैं हमारी इकोनॉमी।
Yes, okay sir, okay.
So बेटा सब कुछ चलता है, right? Some people,
Yes.
some people you can say keep the stock in the you can say cold stores or some warehouses, right? You can say in 2 number also.
Yes sir.
Right? So yes, so beta that is not in the legal way, na? So
Yes,
beta yes beta, in that case monthly receipt is not issued, you can say, right?
Okay sir.
Yes, and even some you can say small warehousing facilities, some you can say small cold stores, right? So may not be registered with that authority. So there are problems in the system.
Yes.
Okay. So is it clear? Is this point clear way to everybody? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Beta, when I will, after the deletion of this, I would not be able to tell you. That is why I'm asking. Okay, so I'm clearing it now, right? So beta, second point here is that, it is not mentioned. It is not mentioned in the ordinance. Let me change it otherwise. We can say the definition of, right, or the here it is mentioned that you can say a value chain participant, right, can keep stock can keep stock of an agricultural produce, right? Of an agricultural produce, right? Up to if the up to the level of, right, up to the level of, you can say, its installed capacity, right? Its installed capacity, right? Or processing or export demand. Is it? It is mentioned there, no? Right? Is it mentioned there? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. You already told us.
Okay. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So beta, now the point is that, right, the, you can say time here is not mentioned. The time here is not mentioned. Okay? It is vague. It is vague whether the, it is vague whether the ordinances, it is vague whether the ordinance is talking about the annual capacity, right? The annual capacity, or some quarterly or monthly capacity, right? Some quarterly or monthly capacity, right? Some quarterly or monthly capacity, right? Or demand at a particular point of time, or demand at a particular point of time, right? So this remains unclear. This remains unclear, right? And can be,
ऐसे में तो हम बोल देंगे कि 10 साल की कैपेसिटी है.
yes, beta, and can be exploited by, right? And can be exploited by traders as well as the government, right? Exploited by traders, right? To keep the stock, right, for let's say 1 year capacity, right, or 2 years capacity, right, by traders or by the governments also, right? Governments also, okay, to impose limits, right, or relax limits according to their own interpretation of the law, right? According to their own interpretation of the law. Their own interpretation of the law, right? So this is another problem in this. Is this point also clear, Bhai? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So beta, then beta, on this side, suggestion, right? Suggestion is that the government, right? The government should take note of this. Should take note of this. And seeing that its benefit can be, right? And seeing that its benefit can be, that it can be exploited. That this you can say unclarity, right, can be exploited by anybody. Can be exploited by anybody, right? By interpreting the law, right? By interpreting the law in its own interest, right? In its own interest, and the government should keep, and the government should therefore, right? The government should therefore, right? You can say, you can say, remove this. We can say ambiguity. right? Remove this ambiguity, right? Ambiguity. So this is the next point and the suggestion. Is it okay? Is it clear, beta? This, I think
Yes,
this point is
sir.
also clear to you.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I am moving further. So this is there, right? So the next thing is that you can say, yes, the next point is that this right, this ordinance does not apply to orders relating to, right, to orders relating to, we can say PDS, public distribution system, or PDS or TPDS, targeted public distribution system, right? So this is there. So बेटा मैं ये आपको यहाँ इसलिए बता रहा हूँ कि बेटा हर पॉइंट का जरूरी नहीं क्रिटिसिज्म हो, कुछ पॉइंट बहुत अच्छा भी हो सकता है, बियॉन्ड क्रिटिसिज्म भी हो सकता है, और हर पॉइंट का जरूरी नहीं सजेशन. Okay, right? So beta, it should not be taken that you can say each and every point needs to be criticized, right? If if the examiner has asked the critical examination, it means it is not that you can say each and every point should be criticized, right? So we can,
Yes, sir.
right? So we can instead write here that right, this point is good, right?
Yes,
This
sir.
point.
Indeed, it is a good point.
Because, sir, it is very much clear in the
Right.
provision only.
Right. This right, this point is good and genuine, right? And it should be, right? And it should be, right? According to the prevailing situations, right? According to the prevailing situations, and the problem of and the problems of food and nutritional security. Food and nutritional security, right? Food and nutritional security and poverty in the country. Right? So we can write this instead here, right? So this point is good. No worries. So this is the next point, right? So up to this we have discussed, you can say, so many things. So the next, so beta, this is that in table form, right? We have mentioned, right? So beta, next thing I told you when I was, you can say, making its sketch, I told you that that you can say there can be some shortcomings or some criticisms which cannot be specific to any particular provisions, right? So those can be you can write out of the table, right? So we can say another concern is that, right? Another concern is that this reform may backfire also, right? May backfire also if it is not used with adequate care and protection, right? Adequate care and protection, right? So as it has been told earlier in the past, right? You can say Vajpayee government, right? Vajpayee government, we can say, right, relaxed the, you can say, these limits, right? Vajpayee government, we can say, in 2002, right? Vajpayee government in 2002, right? Eliminated, you can say, eliminated licensing eliminated licensing and removed the stock limits, right? Removed the stock limits on wheat, right? On wheat, we can say paddy, rice. We can write on wheat, rice, paddy, right? Wheat, rice, paddy. You can say, right? You can say, and this coarse grains, and we can say edible oils, right? Edible oils, right? But in the wake of global food rise, food prices rise. Sorry. Global food prices rise, right? In 2006-7, the government had to impose stock limits again and reintroduced licensing again. All right, had to impose stock limits again, and similarly, right, the 2002 relaxation in the Weinstein, and similarly this 2002 relaxation, right? हम यहाँ this लिख देते हैं, वो cover कर देगा इसको. This 2002 relaxation, right, led to shortage of wheat in our country, right? Led to depletion of buffer stock of wheat in the country. Right, to about 50% level, and therefore the government, right? Therefore the government had to import wheat. In that case, import wheat then, right? Import wheat then. Right? The government had to import wheat then. So that is also another, you can say, problem, right? That is also another thing here. So these are the various, you can say, points which have been written here, right? So this is the. So is it clear, better?
Yes, sir. Sir, please don't remove for 1 minute.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Done.
Okay. So the last is the concluding part, right? Conclusion. Right? Conclusion. Right? This ordinance is considered a genuine and a right step. Genuine and right step by the government. Right step by the government, right? In a series of agricultural reforms. Reforms being introduced, right? And in the background of you can say doubling farmers' income by 2022, right? 2022, and RPMs and RPM's vision of making India a $5 trillion economy, $5 trillion economy by 2024, right? As right, so we can say this this measure will help. Right? This measure will help in increasing the we can say in expansion of agriculture, and increasing its role, increasing its contribution, we can say, increasing its contribution into the GDP of the country, right? Even considering the you can say economic survey 2019-20, right, which has dedicated right one full chapter, related with you can see, right, which has one full chapter related with this particular, you can say, point, right, related with this particular point. So, right, related with the, we can say this related with the market distortions in agriculture sector, we can say. Related with the market distortions in agriculture sector, right? In agriculture sector, right? And you can say and highlighted that blanket ban by the government, right, on stock maintenance of, right, on stock maintenance of commodities under Essential Commodities Act, commodities under Essential Commodities Act, क्योंकि इससे पहले ब्लैंकेट बैन होता था कि इनकी जो स्टॉकिंग थी उसके ऊपर गवर्नमेंट का बैन था, राइट? Essential Commodities Act, right, has neither we can say, right, bring the prices down, has neither brought the prices down, and nor okay reduced the volatility in prices, right? So the government can try this initiative, right, with you can say due care and protections, right, right, considering the chances of its misuse, right, and minding the interests of both consumers and farmers, and farmers, right? Minding the interests of both consumers and farmers, right? Consumers and farmers, right? The various consumers and farmers, right? So the effort is genuine, right? Is genuine, right? The time, it is up to the time, right? It is up to the time, right? And the implementing, right? And the implementing strategy that would prove it, right? That may prove it, right? Prove it good or bad in the days to come, right? Good or bad in the days to come, right? In the days to come. So this is how you can end this. So in the conclusion part, I have taken one point that the effort of the government is genuine and good, right? Because prima facie, it is clear that it may, you can say, help the farming community, right? In raising their income, or it may help the growth of the agriculture sector, right? So prima facie, it looks like that, right? And moreover, the government has a certain vision. One is doubling farmers' income, and second is making India a $5 trillion economy by 2024. The COVID-19 is disturbing, no doubt. Maybe the targets have to be postponed to the government for some years further, right? So, but seeing this message, seeing in all those, you can say, seeing in the context of all those things, this measure seems to be good and positive measure. And even the economic survey has also highlighted that in the past, the government exercised the practice of putting blanket ban on the on, you can say, stocking of the essential commodities under the Essential Commodities Act, right? But that could not, you can say, show any results, right? So neither that helped in, you can say, reducing the inflation of the essential commodities in the market, and nor that has addressed the problem of volatility of, you can say, prices of essential commodities in the market, right? So in that sense, beta, because like you can see in the past, theoretically, you can say a number of good measures have been taken by the government, but the chronic problem in our system persists that you can say, you can say plan very well, but we fail often at the implementation level, right? So beta, that is why if seeing you can say certain threats and risks associated with this, government should move forward with utmost care by taking the protective measures also, right? And the government should focus on its, you can say, administration of these measures, right, within the right framework, so that you can say these measures should be introduced in their true spirit, right, with, you can say, full emphasis and could prove the results, right? So that is what is here in the conclusion. So is it clear, beta?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So beta, this is the new strategy which I have suggested to you today, that we can answer the question in this way also, right? I think this is also a good method. No?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Something new to the examiner as well.
Yes, something new होगा. And second बात क्या है कि हम उसको बस साथ ही निपटाते जा रहे हैं, है ना, एक साथ, right? And one need not to, you can say, refer again and again कि पहले इसने क्या लिखा था, अब ये क्या लिख रहा था.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
बाकी
सामने
सारे
पड़ा.
क्वेश्चन भी ऐदा ਦਾ ਸੀ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ we provisions भी enlist करनी है सी
some
criticism
questions
भी हाँ जी
some questions can be like
हाँ
that.
जी हाँ जी
So anything you want to ask today, you can ask. This is up to you. Any question, any doubt, anything else if you want to ask. I think no question.